relaxing. All right.
No, because shows us that we're actually
Yes.
in directions that are absent.
Surveying is not just going out there anymore and standing up with a total station or a GPS unit. As I was saying, surveying is not just going out there with a GPS unit or with a total station, turning angles, measuring distance. We have evolved beyond that. And me exploring some of these applications that we have in our enterprise GIS database, because I also use the Government of Jamaica online portal as well, and I explore a lot of these applications. For the quick capture one, I actually took one whole day to do that, but it's fun. Once you get to start using these applications that are available to us, you will see how wonderful GIS is evolving and how much it can impact what we do on a day-to-day basis and make it way easier. Because the that status information that I would have collected based on these marks, we would have to sit down and manually type it. When all I need to do is just export that attribute table, and then that's it. Once the data is collected. So it makes our jobs way easier. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Now, for our next presentation, we have Dr. Roberto Rivero. He's a lecturer at the California State University, and Dr. Rivero is a recent PhD graduate from the Department of Sociology at the University of California in Riverside. He is the 2019 U.S. Fulbright Scholar in Criminology to Jamaica. The focus of his dissertation research is on governmental structures and organizational behavior as it intersects the variables of trust in marginalized communities. His current research interest on climate change takes him through his travel experiences to the indigenous communities of Ecuador, as well as his disaster relief response to wildfires, hurricanes, and other natural disasters with the American Red Cross. He wishes to examine the intersection of climate change effects on crime. Now, this presentation is going to be digital.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, how's the volume? Because I can barely hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I wish to thank you all for having me here at the invitation of Mr. Ranford Campbell. Campbell, we had met at the Esri conference a few months ago, and I was taken by him by his knowledge of GIS technology and his love and passion for Jamaica. So thank you very much for the invite. And I like to recognize the other honored panelists that are serving this afternoon. The Land Information Council of Jamaica and honored guests in attendance, and also two invited guests that I have asked to be online with me. My committee chair, distinguished Professor Alfredo Mirande from the University of California, Riverside. As was mentioned earlier, I'm a recent graduate of just a few months ago. And also a special person to me, Dr. Susan Hackwood. She was the executive director of the California Council of Science and Technology in our beautiful state of California. And she also serves as a senior fellow at the UCR School of Public Policy. And they're both with me, and I wish to welcome them as well. And all of you folks that invited me and are participating in the Geography Awareness Week, something that's very important. I wish we could say how important it is in California, but many of our institutions have cut out geography from their programs throughout the state, really throughout the country. And it's only more recently that it's starting to make a comeback, and because of climate change and other areas of concern, rightfully so. So I'm glad that Jamaica is recognizing this, and I'm grateful and thankful that I'm part of the GIS Technical Seminar for this year. Thank you very much. Climate change and the intersection of crime is what I'm going to speak about. I want to share with you my background. I am a retired police officer here in San Diego, California. My career lasted from 1991 to 2011. Once I retired, I got back into school, wanted to pursue or really finish my undergrad degree. And my education has been continuous until now that I recently graduated with my PhD. My master thesis is published in a book chapter on gringo justice, and it's on policing here in the United States and policing in marginalized communities. Again, I'm a Fulbright scholar. I was in Jamaica in 2019. I was at the University of West Indies in Mona, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that Jamaica gave me for that. My research interest as a graduate student was in social psychology and how police officers see themselves within the structure. And I'm also involved in restorative justice practices. And my current research has taken me away from that. I'm now looking at climate change as it intersects crime. And because I am changing going from my PhD research now into a new area. I'm pursuing a postdoc here in the United States, and this is the area that I wish to further examine. So what brought me here? My home burned down in 2007 in a wildfire that happened in San Diego. And it was a chain of about 4 different wildfires that in one case, 2 of them merged into one. It was the largest single fire event in the United States at that point, with the acreage that was burned. And eventually, over time in the last 15 years, we've seen that broken and broken again each year here on the West Coast of the United States, in California and in Oregon, and also record-breaking fires in the state of Colorado. And then also what brought me to the area of climate change was also my volunteer work with the American Red Cross. I work in the capacity of external relations. I work with all our government partners. And in that, I managed to deploy to about 25 major disasters in the United States. For Hurricane Maria, I was assigned there for 4 months, and I oversaw the northern part of the island on the relief effort with the Red Cross. I think it was a little over 2 million people that fell under my responsibility there. And it was a very difficult disaster to manage because of no electricity and no phone service. All the cell towers were brought down. So it's through this personal event in my house coming down in a fire, as well as my volunteer work with the American Red Cross, that has led me to now go into this area of research. And I also want to say that I am a junior scholar in this area, but also GIS technology is quite new for me. But even though it's quite new, I understand the advantages that you have in telling the stories through GIS technology. And I'm going to go into that into detail. And I'm also going to discuss disasters here in the United States as well as globally, and where my research is now leading me to. So, and these are photos of Hurricane Florence. This is in the state of North Carolina. And so what I want to do now is I want to take you to impacts that are being seen. And one of them is in Jamaica. The first one on the left is glaciers. And these are glaciers that have been melting around the globe. As you can see in the before and after photo on the photo on your left, that glacier is now melted. And now you can see what it looks like, that terrain now looks like today. And the photo on the right, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we're not seeing what it is that you're showing us.
Okay.
So you might have to share your screen.
Let me, okay. And how about now?
Yes.
Okay. And I apologize for that. I thought I was actually sharing, so I apologize for that. So what I'm now sharing with you are photos of before and after. The photo on the left is of a glacier. And below the photo of the glacier, you see what the terrain now looks like. It's now green pasture. And on the right is a photo that is near and dear. It's a photo of Hellshire Beach in Jamaica. And as you can see, as you're all well aware, it's a beautiful beach, but you can see how the ocean is now reclaiming this area of Jamaica. And it's this, it was learning about Hellshire Beach really has pushed me and driven me to learn more about Jamaica and climate change. Here in the United States, as you can see, the Colorado River is now drying up. This is a photo of the Colorado River. And it's a photo that's very important because of the trade that takes place, the economic ties that we have on the Colorado River from the series of barges that come up and down the river. This is the backbone of the United States here when you're looking. I'm sorry, can you see the photo? Can you see, I'm sorry, could you see the photo of the Mississippi River?
Yes.
Okay, so these are barges that go up and down the river. When the Mississippi River is low, these barges cannot move, and they're caught up in areas until the tide rises up again, and then they're movable again. As the Mississippi River goes, so does the economies that surround these areas, which is, it's quite alarming because this is, you know, the Mississippi River is written in our literature. It is one of the most largest rivers we have in the United States, but again, it will impact the economies of these areas as well as the national economy because of what's inside the barges, and it'll slow down the movement. So let me. And then also here in the United States, weather is becoming more severe. On the West Coast, as you can see in the first photo, these are fires. The darker red, it shows where the fires are becoming more impactful. And as you can see in the state of California, in the photo on the far left, that red that you see is the agricultural belt of California. Now, this is where we're now seeing millions of acres being burned down each year since 2017. From the Paradise Fire that we had to the fires that we've continued to have over the last 4 years, it's not slowing down, it's increasing. And the photo on the right, I'm sorry, the third photo from the left is of Hurricane Ian, how it impacted the state of Florida. And the photo on the far right is of Hurricane Fiona in Puerto Rico, which again took out the electricity and cell service in Puerto Rico. Okay, now let's look at this globally as the impact of climate change is increasing. If you look at the picture on the far left, number 1, on the far left corner, that's of Madagascar. That was in January of this year. The photo to the right of that is the summer heat wave that we've witnessed in the United Kingdom. The third photo that you see with the trees and the fire in the background, that's in France, and that's in the Bordeaux region. Photo on the far right is California, where we hit we had a heat wave of about 2 weeks or so. We saw some of the hottest temperatures that we've ever had. Temperatures reached 116 degrees, which was a record. On the bottom on the left is a photo that is of Cyclone Ballesteri, which hit Madagascar, and it displaced more than 60,000 people. The photo to the right of that on the bottom, and those are villagers in a boat in the Philippines, and that's Typhoon Noru. Now, what's interesting about this hurricane is that this was expected to be a Category 1 hurricane. It ended up being a Category 5. And this came out of nowhere. And it's this unpredictability that we're now seeing in weather across the globe, not just here in the Caribbean and the United States, across the globe, that is becoming, it's quite alarming to scientists. And in the case of this particular photo in the Philippines, 100,000 people were impacted in the agricultural and fishing industry. So imagine if that hit home in Jamaica, to get hit with a Category 5 hurricane in which most of your agriculture would be wiped out, and also the fishing industry as well. The photo to the right of those in the boat, the photo on the right on the bottom is where you see people walking in the water. That is of Pakistan, and that's also in September. And we saw a third of the entire country underwater. A third of the entire country underwater, which is unbelievable. And the photo on the far right on the bottom is of Typhoon Namadol that hit Japan also in September. Half of these events you see from September of this year, just 2 months ago. Some of the most severe weather that's ever has struck our globe in the last 200 years. So Jamaica and GIS used for crime and climate change analysis. What I'm looking to do, and what I'm proposing to do for my research, is I'm looking at the impacts of climate change. And one of the areas that I'm quite interested in as a researcher is the area right here, Trelawney. Trelawney has been, when you look at severe drought, Trelawney has been one of the parishes that's been most impacted by severe drought, which in turn will impact also agriculture as well. And as you can see throughout, this is what you're looking at right now is the percentage of poverty prevalence. And so poverty is one of the areas that I'm looking at. And what I wish to analyze, and let me go to some more maps here. I'm going to. And as you can see, this is geospatial technology has been more in the forefront of discussion, more so quite a bit in Jamaica, which is great to see. I wish we had it more in the US. Okay, so what I wish to analyze is what's already there and examine possible predictions that could be made, such as the shoreline receding in the coming years based on climate change and other socioeconomic factors. You could have different layers of GIS information layers that could include water availability and other parameters that contribute to the water table being lowered. You could have government ongoing development-based projects and reachability of these projects to the household level. For example, water that gets trucked in to parishes for agricultural and human consumption purposes. That's one of the reasons why I'm very interested in Trelawney. And then also climate change contributes to agricultural produce, with some crops no longer viable due to climate change. Therefore, this can cause food scarcity and poverty, with the more likelihood of people being driven towards crime. So imagine in the case of Jamaica, not being able to produce callaloo. And I say callaloo because I was introduced to it when I was in Jamaica, and I became quite fond of it. I ate it probably about 5 times a day, but it's something that's very important to Jamaicans as well. And then also, I wish to use other socioeconomic factors, such as jobs that fell below the poverty line, to seek for a correlation for crime spots. And as you can see here in this, what you see in front of you, this is what where you can actually use ArcGIS technology, and you can actually give the story. And this is what's amazing about using the technology that I'm really interested in applying to my research, is that the stories that you see. Here you can look at the program implementation that I spoke a little bit earlier. In this case, you're looking at 3 parishes: St. James, St. Elizabeth, and St. Andrew. Here you can look at, these are program impacts through RADA, Rural Agricultural Development Authority. And you can see how they're out in the community. Then you have farmers groups, and these are programs that also we can show impacts on capacity building activities. And here you see farmers who have trained and assisted under GOV AFP have attested to significantly increasing yields and earnings, which many have reinvested in their farms to achieve sustainable agribusiness. So this is what you're now seeing in Jamaica. It's a photo of climate resilience, where you saw 10,000 farmers who were affected by the flood rains, which resulted in damages. And you're looking at damages of over 664 million. So imagine when a higher category event happens in a hurricane, and the impact that it can have on Jamaica. In the case of Puerto Rico, when I was there, you're looking at about 1/3 of the island that was flooded out. You're looking at homes that use septic tanks, and these septic tanks, the water was impacted the water table there from the sewage there. So it created what we call black water here, which is a pollutant, and many homeowners went back into these homes. Again, these are areas of Jamaica that Jamaica are currently working with. So as a junior scholar who wishes to propose this project, I'm looking at how I can take this technology of GIS and applying it to my research to give the story of how crime can increase due to the impacts of climate change. And why is this important? Well, it becomes Darwinian. Imagine where you have, in the case of Jamaica, and also here in the United States, imagine where you have fewer resources. Well, when you have fewer resources, it creates competition. And the fewer resources you have, whether it be water, whether it be food from food scarcity, these are the areas that I'm quite interested in. Now, I spoke of primarily of Jamaica, but there is a second area that I'm also looking at. And in the map, that is of Tulare County, which is here in California. And Tulare is quite interesting in that here in California, we have 58 counties. Tulare is just but one county. But when you look at the wells that have been drying up, Tulare has over half the wells that have dried up here in California. For me, it kind of compares a little bit towards Trelawney in the sense of how you're experiencing severe drought. Now, in the case of Tulare, as in the map that you see with the points, Tulare is in the middle of our agriculture area of California. As this agriculture area starts to go, we're going to lose the ability to produce food. And California, if you measure it as a country economically, the state of California would be the fourth leading economy in the world. Well, the agricultural belt is changing, and it's changing at a rapid rate. And as it changes, this is becoming a major concern for us. And it's that change that I see, not just in Tulare and not just in Trelawney, but really globally, that I'm looking at crime to see how crime can increase. This is a new area of research for me. What brought me also to this area is a program that we have at University of California, Riverside under Dr. Hackwood, and it's called the Science and Policy Project, where we're looking at areas of science and technology and building on that to understand certain phenomena. So my presentation is done as proposed research. It's in the very beginning stages. I like to come back to Jamaica in about a year to a year and a half to share with you where I'm at on my research. And I want to thank you all for this opportunity. And with that, I can take questions.
Are there any questions? No. With that, we'll thank Dr. Roberto Rivero for his presentation.
Okay,
and
thank you very much.
look forward to him coming back to Jamaica to continue his research.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Okay, our next presenter is Mr. Ramon Watson. He's GIS coordinator at the National Environment and Planning Agency. He is a GIS coordinator, and his academic background includes a Master of Science degree in Natural Resource Management, and he's also a PhD candidate at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago, that's in the Western Campus. I'm going to invite Mr. Akinado to come forward and make his presentation.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back face to face again. This afternoon, I'll be making a presentation on placemaking, a strategy to create a safer street for all. The National Environment and Planning Agency utilizes data from other sister agencies like NLA. So we depend solely on their data to inform national policies. The outline of the presentation, I'm going to do an introduction of placemaking, and I'm going to talk about the study area, the research question, the research objective, the study methodology, the presentation of my data, and recommendation. As you know, the National Environment and Planning Agency started in 2001 under the Public Sector Modernization Program, where three main legislations were integrated together. Number one, TCPA, the NRCA, and the LDUC, that is Land Development and Utilization Commission. So some of the things that we do is we develop national policies as it relates to land use. So we have one of our major documents, which is the development order. Now, some of these studies that we do, they actually inform the national policies and especially the development order. Now, the aim of this presentation is really to show how to connect components of modern GIS technology, including field surveys, dashboards, interactive maps, and multimedia maps that can help foster spatial thinking, critical thinking, and rigorous use of GIS tools and data for sound decision making. Now, most of the work that we do, we try to ensure that we are ahead of time, especially as cities are growing. And as you know, the Caribbean is one of the most urbanized areas right now in the world. So as cities continue to grow, much pressure is put on available urban infrastructure. And this situation is not different in Jamaica. As you can look around our cities, you are going to see some of these problems, particularly the problem of crime. So what we have found is that researchers in urban design have actually suggested that placemaking could be the way to go. There are a plethora of research that has suggested that we use placemaking. So the question is, what is placemaking? Now, placemaking facilitates creative patterns of use, paying particular attention to the physical, cultural, and social identities that define a place and support its ongoing evolution. So the areas that we're looking at, because we are currently creating master plans for areas like Halfway Tree, for areas like Constant Spring, and the next one we are doing is Crossroads. And I believe that some of us here, or virtually every one of us here, have used these urban centers. Now, placemaking is not just about designing a park or a plaza, or it's not about just designing a place, but it's actually about how are these places being utilized by all the users. The end result should be a cohesive unit that creates greater value and sense of belonging for the community that use the sum of the parts. Placemaking shows how people have an affiliation with places through everyday life experiences. It should be noted that people's experiences at a particular location can either attract them to those places or repel them from those areas. Now, the question is, what are these things that may repel people or attract people to a particular location? Now, this study also looked at the urban form. Urban form has to do with density, it has to do with the building type, it has to do with the transport infrastructure, it has to do with the land use and the layout. Now, what are the tools that we are using? But before I go to the tool, I want to quickly tell you about the study area, which is Crossroads. I know some of us may have, traveled through Crossroads. And I want you to do a little background check on Crossroads. Crossroad is at the intersection of 5 major roads: the Slide Road, Halfway Tree Road, Old Hope Road, Caledonia Avenue, and Marascas Road. It is perhaps, I will say, is the heartbeat of Kingston and St. Andrew. Now, some amenities located here are the Crossroads Police Station, Crossroads Bus Station, which is a major transport hub, Crossroads Post Office, Crossroads Market, and the popular Carib 5 Cinema, the Northall Memorial Hospital, and several private businesses and government agencies. Now, the research question is, what is the existing condition of Crossroads urban form? What are the citizens' vision of the study area? Now, what we are doing is we are looking at placemaking. How do we integrate people, places, and public life together? Those are what we are looking at. Now, the first thing was to generate a stakeholders notification list. Then this next is to explore Crossroads transport infrastructure. Let me just quickly say, by transport infrastructure, we are talking about the hard and the soft, and I will explain that as we go along. Now, GIS is a tool that we have been able to find very useful, especially as it relates to what we are doing. I'm just going to show you the explanation I made a while ago about Crossroads. Now we have the intersection, which is being shown using a linear feature. So we have the 5 major intersections, and this is our study area, which is the Crossroads Business District. Now this is the entrance of Caledonia Avenue. Now, before the study, I also, as researchers, I want us to pay attention to the scales of measurements, which we didn't leave out. The nominal scale, the ratio scale, the interval scale, and the ordinal scale. Now, some of the data that we collected, they were qualitative and quantitative. Now, establishing internal and external reliability and validity of the study, we consider the following: the data collection tool, the respondent effort, questions wording, order, format, structure, and visual layout, and the accuracy of the elicited information. Then for the primary data collection, it was mainly through participatory observation, Google Street View, face-to-face interviews, and photographic techniques were used to assess the existing condition of Crossroads and its environs. Now, we looked at the quality of the streetscape. By talking about streetscape, we're talking about the street furniture, the curbsides, the bus stops, and a whole lot of other things. Now, the elements, I deem it necessary to present the elements of the streetscape, which is, if you go around the urban centers in Jamaica, you're going to see that some of these elements are actually absent. So in developing national policies, we look at some of these things, such as sidewalks, street corners, trees and landscape, planters, street furnishing, benches, your lighting, which includes your street light and your traffic light, the signage, the bus shelter, bicycle facilities, and the crossing. Now, I want to ask a question. Can any of you ride a bicycle on Halfway Tree Road? I think it's practically impossible, but these are some of the things. So we are looking at the concept of a smart city, and that's why we are doing some of these studies to inform, the development of our smart cities. Now, these are some of our observations using photographic techniques. Now, the presentation of data. The first thing was to generate a stakeholders notification list. Now, what was our question? We asked landowners if they are willing to share a specific facility. Now, using the data from my friend from NLA, which is the land use data or the land use parcel, we use that GIS technique, we use that geoprocessing technique. The first tool that we used, we built a model, we had a model builder. So you can see that right here, we have the parcel using model builder. The first operation was to select the layers by attribute. And then the second was to select layers by location. And then we did a frequency because sometimes there might be some parcel owners that owns more than one parcel in that particular area. So doing this, we're able to generate a table. Just for anonymity's sake, I didn't show the names of the people who own those parcels. Now, we were able to generate a table. And in generating this table, right, we looked at persons who owned, so we had a particular parcel where there was going to be a change of use. And then we looked at persons within 500 feet around that particular parcel. And that's how this table was generated. Now, this is the operation and the parcels within that particular lot that we are looking at to change the use. Now, the next thing was we looked at the traffic study. So traffic congestion is one major problem in our urban areas. For some of us who live in Portmore, right, you know that if you leave Portmore, if you're coming to work in Kingston by 8:30, you have to leave Portmore at least by 6 o'clock or 5:30. Otherwise, you're going to arrive late. And then getting to Crossroads, we discovered at peak hours, we are having traffic congestion at this intersection. So what we're looking at, we're trying to find out what were the reasons for this. So we're able to look at the taxi drivers and their operations within the Crossroad area. Now the cars in yellow, they are actually illegal parking or illegal stopping areas. Now these were some of the areas that we observed traffic where people were stopping, especially taxi drivers and bus drivers. Now the area in green is actually the areas where you have the legal parking. So those areas, you don't really have much problems there. But if you go to Retirement Road, the beginning of the Retirement Road, we're having a problem there. And if you go to the entrance of Caledonia Avenue and the Crossroads Center, you have buses coming out from the park and you have buses going into the Caledonia Avenue. So there is a problem there. Mind you, what we are doing is to have empirical information to inform policy development. And the GIS is a tool that we are using. Then another thing was to do a parking study. Now, in doing the parking study, we actually went out and we collected data. I think I have it open here already. All right, so this is a dashboard showing us the number of parking that were observed, which is 67, and those facilities within the Slide Road and Marascas Road and Caledonia Avenue and all that have on-site and off-site parking. So we discovered that about 88.06% of businesses operating at Crossroads, they have on-site parking, while 11.94% have off-site parking. Now, this dashboard, it has the capacity to accommodate more data. So we can actually go back because we created this tool in survey 1 to 3. So as you are adding information through the survey 1 to 3, you are able to visualize the dashboard, seeing the information in real time on the dashboard. Now, the workflow is this. The GIS workflow is creating a field survey using survey 1 to 3, creating and analyzing a map from the survey data, creating dashboard from the survey data. And when you are doing this, because for you to be able to visualize your data in real time, you have to ensure that your information is created in such a way. So you have to pay attention to your types, to your levels of measurement, I mean scales of measurement. If you do not measure scales properly, right, you can't really visualize it a certain way, just like we have done. Then another thing that we did was to do a streetscape. So we are looking at the entire area of Crossroads, especially the business district. So in looking at it, we're looking at line features, we're looking at polygon features, and we're looking at point features, which can be represented in GIS. But we discovered that some of those maps that my NLA friend was presenting, very difficult for persons who are not, who we would say are not educated to understand. So we've now decided to use a 3D simulation of the entire area. So when we sit in a room and we pull out the 3D simulation, right, policymakers are well able to understand the character of the particular area. So in creating this, we looked at some of the important areas around Crossroads. But I'm going to show you the 3D. So this is a long slide road. I don't know if you are used to Crossroads. This is a long slide road. Slide road where you're coming from downtown, there's a Unipet petrol station. So that was actually our starting point. So the JTC buses are going up and the traffic is coming down. So what we did was to do, so we can actually have a bird's eye view of the entire area in 3D. So we're looking at the curb sites and we realize that some of the houses or the road have no proper setback. So one of the things that we are going to do in developing this is the square and that is the Tower Club and that is the Crossroads and the bus terminals. And this is Slide Road going towards Caledonia. That is the Caledonia Avenue taxi stand. And then you have your Crossroads Market. And this is coming from Halfway Tree Road. We're going into Caledonia. That is HAJ, and NEPA is on this side. The building in yellow is NEPA. This NEPA number 10, 11, no, 15. HAJ, Natal Hospital, and this is Natal Hospital. And then we have, we have 3 buildings, number 10, number 15, and number 11. So we're looking at all of this area. This is not NEPA number 11. And we're going towards the tax office, which is on Old Hope Road. And then after tax office, you have Azans, you have Crossroads Plaza. So the reasons why we're doing this is for policymakers to understand the character of the area that we are dealing with. So you know what is where. And in doing that, we are able to inform, policy and develop proper zoning information for the country. So that's a 3D simulation. I'm going to go back to my presentation. All right, these are just some observations during, and I feel I should share it with everyone here because it's placemaking and you are one of the stakeholders as well. Most of the curbsides along most of our roads are damaged. The roads are not user friendly. with poles and fire hydrants at the middle of the pedestrian walkway, no adequate signage on the road. Most of these stop signs are broken, and in some areas they are non-existent. There's no uniform setback in all the areas observed. Sanitation of the area needs to be improved. So in some cases, you find people urinating on the curbside, which is not a proper thing in our decent urban center. So what are our recommendations? What is the way forward? Now, achieving such high level of infrastructural upgrade will require a lot of finance. So those in the academia, they have a lot of work to do in terms of attracting grants to Jamaica in order for us to make Jamaica a place to live, work, and do business by the year 2030. Now, there were some things that I skipped here. We looked at land use, which we also use the NLA's data to do. And we looked at the density of crossroads. Recently, you will see a lot of high-rise buildings coming up, in most of our urban centers. What are we trying to do? We are trying to accommodate more people, although some persons have divergent views about the high-rise building. But as the population continues to grow, we feel that there are some areas where the habitable rooms, should increase in order to reduce sprawl that actually depletes or degrades our environment. Now that is up for debate as well. And then we also looked at crime at crossroads. Now, remember what we are actually looking at is placemaking, right? If you have crime happening in a place, would you want to visit such areas? Definitely no. So those types of behavior actually repels people from those particular places. Now at Crossroads, we discovered that this data is actually from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and we discovered that a lot of shootings are happening around there, a lot of robbery aggravation happening, and even rape and some other types of crimes happening around there. So what we did was to ask the citizens on their shared vision of Crossroads itself. Now, we looked at 4 major areas: uses and activities, access and linkages, comfort and image, and sociability. And a lot of people gave their own perspective of the area. I'm not going to share that because it's still work in progress. But one thing is sure, everybody agrees that the people need to be involved in policy development. The people need to have their say in the way we design our cities. The people need to own their cities. So the people need to own their cities. So this is where I'm going to stop my presentation. So sorry that I couldn't show you some of the maps and graphics that I have, but that is my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you. Any question? All right. It's done in City Engine, and City Engine is a part of the Esri suite. So it's done in City Engine. It's done in City Engine. All right, the input is you bring your data from your ArcGIS Pro. So you must have a 3D analyst capability. So there are extensions in your ArcMap, your ArcPro, which is 3D analyst. So you start develop. So you develop your geodatabase, and then you bring those geodatabase into your city engine.
Now for our next presentation, we have Mrs. Cherise James. But before she comes forward, we're going to try to fix a technical problem.
No, that's fine. I think the Lord is on my side.
All right, so Mrs. James is acting director of community development and planning at the squatter management unit of the of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Now, Ms. Cherise James serves as the director of community development and planning in the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, which is now the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. She was a GIS consultant to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, where she developed geospatial tools that are currently being employed in the squatter management unit. So, Ms. James.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, for those of us who are somewhat religious, I would say the Lord is on my side. I recently found out about this presentation that I did before yesterday, and so I had a lot going on. So I think as it is now, I was going to present to you just speaking and not really on the screen. So I guess it worked out. So we'll be talking about GIS tools in squatter management, right? Now, when we think of squatting, and I ask the question, when we think of squatting, do we see squatting as a solution or is it a problem? Anybody? Oh. And why would you say it's a solution? That's correct. And also it's a concern because of the environmental issues. The squatter settlements are often at a location where they are either close to our water bodies and there isn't any proper planning, so we have planning violations, and as a result, persons' lives are at risk based on where they are settled, and also we have our environment being at risk also. But in addition to that, as you said, yes, it's a solution because it provides somewhere for persons to live who are unable to afford land and housing in Jamaica. Now, the government of Jamaica has embarked on formulating a national squatter management policy and implementation plan. Now, the policy is geared towards addressing all forms of squatting in Jamaica, whether residential, commercial, agricultural, any type of squatting in Jamaica. That's what the policy seeks to address. Now, the overarching goal is to really find means in which we can solve the issue of squatting in Jamaica, but also promote sustainable use of our land resources. Now, the policy has 7 principles and values that we seek to focus on. So we have number 1 being adequate housing for all and leaving no one behind. We talk about social inclusion, the mass. We talk about social inclusion. I can hear the mic going on. Are you hearing me? So we talk about social inclusion and tenure security, respect for human rights, environmental sustainability, and climate resilience, sustainable use of land resources, I mentioned that earlier, empowerment and personal responsibility, participatory development, transparency, and accountability. Now, in order for us to carry out or to formulate this policy, obviously, there's a need to understand the dynamics of our squatter settlements. Currently, there is no entity in Jamaica that would have a full repository of data on squatter settlements. So how do we plan for the settlements if we do not have the necessary data? And recognizing the need, the ministry embarked on the National Squatter Survey. Now, this survey is geared towards collecting household data right across the island. But not only looking at the household data, but also settlement data in terms of the environment, the physical makeup, etc. Now, in order to do this, this is where GIS and geospatial technology comes in. We wanted to ensure that we are able to effectively and efficiently collect data. And so we employ geospatial technologies using survey 1, 2, 3 for our GIS, just like before. So to start, first we would have had to identify the location even before going out to conduct the survey. One of our major challenges is that even some of our landowners don't know where these settlements are. And so we went on a verification drive with our municipal corporations, and they would have listed some, they would have given us a list of squatter settlements. So what we did, having identified the name of the settlement, we were able to use our GIS desktop to conduct a desktop research using parcel data also to identify some of these locations. So in addition to that, we not just use survey 1, 2, 3 as in the online program, but we actually use survey 1, 2, 3 Connect. Now, this is the application that you would download on your desktop computer, not on your cell phones. And the reason for using survey 1, 2, 3 for GIS Connect is that we want to ensure that integrity of the data is maintained. So, for example, we want to ensure that if a child younger than 16 who shouldn't be given, because the person is younger than 16, you know that they can't be married, but legally here in Jamaica. Also, if the person is younger than 14, you wouldn't want to collect data about employment from these persons. So we were able to program the tool using survey 1, 2, 3 Connect under the relevance tool to make the survey relevant to the person who is answering the questions. And so with that, we were able to maintain some form of data integrity and also that save us time as it relates to data cleaning. In addition to that, one of the benefits of survey 1, 2, 3 is that the data, once it's uploaded to the cloud, we were now able to import in our GIS the online using the web map. Now, Now we're at the point of the web map. So at this point, I must say that the survey is still ongoing, but I'm just bringing you through the process how we have used the various tools in order to achieve our objectives. Now, at this point, we were able to reach out to some of our agencies, NSDM, MB being one of them, providing data on infrastructure, etc. And we were able to overlay this data in the map, conduct our analysis, and then we create our what is now called our national spotter geodatabase. So yes, Jamaica is moving forward in terms of collecting data on our spotter settlements and actually have developed a framework for our geodatabase. We are just currently awaiting the completion of our survey. Now that we have our geodatabase, we recently completed the development of what is known as the spotter management GIS portal. I am unable to show you the portal today because it is not yet public. But what I can say that the GIS portal is a revolutionary tool that will help Jamaica to meet its needs as it relates to monitoring spotting in the island. And I can share some of the features of the tool. All the survey data that we have collected, all the analysis, all the data from our various stakeholders that we were able to overlay is now in one central location. In addition to that, we were able to categorize all data according in 4 categories, being the boundaries. So we are able to run our analysis within various administrative boundaries in terms of constituencies, parish, electoral divisions. We are also able to run analysis as it relates to environmental boundaries in terms of protected areas, which settlements fall within specified protected areas. We're able to do that as well. Those settlements that are at risk. One of the things that we have done is that we have developed what is known as a 3-tier typology within the unit, and this typology is where all those settlements that are the person's lives are at risk, they would be categorized as tier 1, and they are categorized for relocation. Tier 2 for those that are zoning issues, and tier 3 those settlements that are fit for regularization. Now, in order for us to actually categorize these settlements, we had to employ GIS tools, because with the GIS tools, we were able to actually identify what is happening here. And every GIS person will be already. GIS really helped us to understand what is happening here. We were able to see which settlements are in close proximity to environmental features. We were able to see those settlements that are in gullies, close to rivers, coastline settlements, etc. And so we are, even as it relates to the number of habitable rooms, we were able to identify that as well. And so what we have developed now is within the geodatabase, we have all the various risks associated with each spotter settlement, and we have the associated recommendations. I mentioned earlier that we are in the process of developing a policy. All of this data informs the policy. Not only that, there isn't any legislation in Jamaica, that speaks directly to spotting. All we have are several legislation that we can fix the different aspects of those legislation to actually address the issue. So what the policies we was bringing everything together. And so the SMU GIS portal, which we have developed, is somewhat of a supporting tool to the policy in which we are not able to digitize aspects of the policy. And what do I mean by this? The policy speaks to a reporting mechanism where the public at large is able to report where squatting is taking place. So how are we going to do this? I know, yes, we can receive phone calls, we can have a hotline, all of that, but with GIS and the app that we have used to develop the portal is the web experience builder, not the web app builder, the experience builder. Yes, it's a new version to the web app builder. It has a capability where you can program different widgets, and you are also able to, if you do have a web app from the web app builder, you are able to copy the URL and place in the embedded widget where you can still maneuver within the portal. So it's actually that you're creating a website for yourself using the experience builder. And so, as I said earlier, we want to digitize aspects of the policy. And so we have developed using Survey 123 a squatter reporting tool, which will be made public, where persons can actually report where squatting is taking place. And so that is also in our portal. As it relates to the various legislation, once you enter the portal, you'll be able to click on the guidelines supporting squatting, the draft policy, and other acts really pertinent to squatting. So we are making progress as it relates to squatting in Jamaica. I must say that we have come a long way, and we really look forward to reaching out to Jamaica as we go forward in our consultations, etc. But as I can say is that GIS has been instrumental. I believe that GIS is the central pillar for us achieving our objectives within the squatter management unit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. We have a question that came in from one of our attendees online. And this is Ms. Katrine Cole from the Planning Institute of Jamaica. She asked if the tool or the portal is going to be made publicly available.
Okay, so I would like to say yes, but because we have to go through various protocols, and that's one of the reasons why I couldn't show the tool today. We have to go through various protocols in order for that to happen. But even if the entire tool is not, in the entire portal is not public, aspects of the portal will be public. For example, the squatter reporting tool.
Are there any other questions for Ms. James?
Asking in regards to this that we get to report to is watching. So what type of measures are being put in place? What kind of consequences and the implications of the support be
All right, so I'll just repeat the question. The question is, seeing that we're going to have our squatter reporting tool, what measures going to be in place to ensure that we don't have persons just reporting and there's no risk squatting taking place, and also if it's actual squatting, what will be the implementation for the persons? Is it that we're going to enforce the laws, etc.? Yes. So as it is currently, we have, so once the report comes in, we will verify in-house, reach out to the reporter because there's a section of the the survey that asks for the reporter's details. And so once we get that, we will reach out to the persons and then we'll make our necessary checks in-house, and our field officers, once they are available to us, will make verifications on the ground. The spot management unit, as it is now, is not an enforcement unit, and so we don't have the power to enforce any legislation as it relates to squatting. However, what we can do from our end is to track the case and streamline these cases to the various landowners or whichever entity, whether it be NEPA or whoever is responsible for addressing each case. So similar to crime stuff, you can prevent persons, unscrupulous persons, but we trust that it will be more beneficial than a negative impact on one.
Specific to the ports of infrastructure. Database for serve.
Okay, so the portal that we have developed is through the Esri's Enterprise License Agreement. And so the data that we have stored is stored in the web map on the back end. So all the data is stored on the cloud, the Esri cloud, and the map that the interactive map that is presented in the portal is posted in the web map on the back end. Everything is online, but we do back up our data within the unit and the ministry server. It's just for accessibility purposes and ease of sharing. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. James. Now, we have come to the end of the seminar, and I would just like to thank everyone for attending. I know that we have representatives from various elements within the government here who might not have been known to everybody, but we thank you all for coming, and we thank you for sharing with us for the 10th GIS Technical Seminar. I'm going to invite Ms. Simone Lloyd to give a panel.
Many thanks to our speakers for joining us today, and to all our attendees who have been with us. Thank you for joining and being with us face to face here, and also for all who have joined us online. I'm going to invite Miss James to come up back to the front for us. Just a little thank you for our appreciation for the hard work that the SMU has done, and for consenting to be here with us today and for sharing with us. It's such a pity those of us who are in the ministry were able to benefit from a very extensive session yesterday. So there was an internal session within the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, where all the various divisions, branches, units, and agencies were able to hear from Mrs. James and to go through. She went through a very detailed demo of the entire portal and geodatabase with us yesterday. So it's just a pity that based on the decision of acting confidentiality, you're not able to benefit from seeing it. But we were all wowed. We went on and on and on. It was very good. So thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you so much for your hard work. And continue with respect to the hard work that you're doing. Massive work, and we're very proud of all of your achievements so far. Thank you. Good. Mr. Watson, you were our first presenter. Come up, please. Land Agency is a foundation member of the Land Information Council of Jamaica. They have made significant contributions to the work of the council over the past 30 years. The NLA has done and made significant strides in terms of the use of GIS and other forms of geospatial technologies. And so we're happy that you're able to share some of that with us today with the use of Story Map, and we're able to benefit from that. So just a little thank you for you. And a little thank you, and these little thank yous are sponsored by Heart Trust NSCA. Yes, so based on the little thank yous that you're getting, we hope that you'll benefit from going and relaxing and all that comes with what is in the little package from Heart Trust NSCA. Celine, the National Environment and Planning Agency, is also a long-standing foundational member of the LICA, and we thank you for always showing up and representing and supporting all the work that we continue to do, yes, towards building Jamaica's GIS landscape. Thank you for presenting on the work that NEPA continues to do, and just a thank you, of which we hope that you will enjoy. All compliments on Heart Trust NSCA, Heart NSCA Trust. Good. Unfortunately, we cannot share the gift with our online presenter, given the type of gift that it is. But many thanks to our presenters for coming out. Many thanks to all our attendees who are here physically with us and those who have joined us online. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments, and your continued support. As we round up in terms of concluding this session, we invite you to join us outside for a little refreshments before we send you off on your merry way. And we look forward to seeing those of you who can join us on Sunday at the Thanksgiving service at St. Luke's Anglican at 7:30 a.m. Afterwards, we'll also be treating persons who join us to breakfast. And then on Wednesday next week, on the 16th, here to celebrate the 20th National GIS Expo in the Assembly Hall. So many thanks and have a good afternoon and safe travel home. Bye, everyone.